going on, people? It's Tuesday afternoon. We weren't expecting to do this. We have no video. That's right. There is no video for this. It's pre-recorded. You'll be listening to this Tuesday evening, unless there's more breaking news and more stuff to record. Joining me on this, I don't know how long this episode will be, but we're going to dive deep in, extremely deep, cavity deep into the Kenobi spoilers. And there's a lot of Knights of the Old Republic details out there for the remake. So we're going to dive into some of them. I know we already talked about some of these, but Johnny hasn't heard some of the Knights of the Old Republic stuff. Ian hasn't heard some of the Obi Wan Kenobi stuff, so we're going to make a show of it. And speaking of the two, what's going on, Johnny?
Oh man, there's not a lot. It's weird. I'm not used to, not seeing faces anymore. You get so used to, being able to look at each other and give each other the crazy eyes when you say something stupid, and now it's just,
I don't know how we operated 4 years just with voices. Like, we didn't see each other as shows were being recorded, right? So, like,
I mean, we would often, get together and record in person, you and I, because, of course, as everyone who's been around long enough knows, we're local, known each other for, basically ever at this point in our lives. So, yeah, I mean, it wasn't that weird for us. We could give each other, the eye when somebody said something stupid or we said something stupid or, but yeah, it's different. I forgot what this feels like.
Darth Maul has a message for all you. Check out Patreon. It's another way you can support not just Star Wars Wastelands, but Fandom Empire as a brand. Patreon.com/Fandom Empire, or you can become a YouTube channel member today. And he also says that Taco Bell is highly overrated. I agree. Right out of Darth Maul's mouth. Also joining us, it's Ian. What's going on, man?
Hey guys, it's weird. I just realized that the first time that I was on the show, I think was without cameras. I forgot that's how things used to be done. When I came back into things, cameras were the norm, and you guys just kind of weirdly gave me a flashback. I was like, I remember sitting in the dark in my basement doing quizzes, voice only. I remember this.
I'm thinking back. I remember one of those rare times when we were first starting the studio experiment in Sean's little bedroom studio at the time with the whiteboards, and you getting whiteboard ink in your eyes.
Oh, I did.
Yes.
It's been a while.
That was when we were still in audio.
Yeah, no video for that, of course. Yeah, wow, that's a weird reality that I haven't thought of.
I remember that. It was like it became a serious concern that we're going to get it in your eyes. Oh, man. Wow, that takes me back. Holy fuck. You know what's crazy? Wait for it.
It's been, 5 years?
That's almost 5 years ago.
No! That's insane. 5 years.
If you ever needed to feel shitty about how long life doesn't last, fuck, that's insanity. That's easily the quickest 5-year period of my life.
I already have students on a daily basis putting me into context when they're like, "What's the save button?" I'm like, "That's a floppy disk." Okay. Thanks, guys.
I get that one.
Oh man!
Yeah,
you see the meme floating around with a cassette and a pencil, and what do these things have in common? And kids are like, "I know the pencil. What's the other one?"
You can write a label on the thingy thing, the videotape thing. You can write a label. No. Oh God.
Now that we know
rewind
we're limited with Ian, we're on air. Well, I guess we're not on air. We're pre-recording this. I am trying to get us some other images to pull up. But why don't we start, fellas, with the big, did they change it or did they not change it? Ian and I talked about this yesterday, so maybe we'll let Johnny lead off.
Yeah.
This is how we were introduced to the Grand Inquisitor in the Obi Wan Kenobi limited series for now. We'll touch on that later. And again, I'm someone who thinks that if a character debuts in animation and they don't look the same in live action, it's not that big of a deal, but this is just not a very good look. However, I feel like if this image right here was the first image we would have seen of the Grand Inquisitor in Obi Wan Kenobi, I don't think you'd see half as much or hear half as much bitching. Johnny, just what are your thoughts, man?
Perception is reality. Ian and I were talking about this a bit earlier before we started recording. I can't recall if you were still with us at the time, if that was when you stepped away, but it's the difference in looking up versus looking down. Which is the main difference between the two. Like, take the lightsaber effect out of it, which does add add that red hue, makes a difference for a Sith character. But like when he has his chin up, you can't quite see the way the face looks effectively, because he's got his chin up. And let's be honest, if you're looking at someone from the bottom up, they always look different, no matter who they are. Just the perception of all that looks different. And here you see him in more of a combat-ish stance, with the chin tucked a bit more and the head down, and you can actually see more of the face, where in the first picture, we talked about the shape of his head looks more squished and egg-shaped, whereas here, you can at least tell that it comes to more of an oblong shape. So while, the species does have a very distinct look, which, yes, I said it earlier, when you take a character or a species from animation or comics to live action for the first time, then you have a bit of wiggle room in what the species looks like on screen versus animated, because let's be honest, animated characters always look different than their real life counterparts. The characters in the Clone Wars look ridiculously, drastically different than the characters we see on screen. Like Anakin and Obi Wan are the prime examples of this. They look nothing like Ewan and Hayden. So we accept those changes as the difference between animation and live action, whereas this is a species that we did see in live action, and it did have the pronounced sunken eyes and cone-ish head that we don't see here. It looks better in this new batch of photos than it did in the first batch, so it's just a question of which one's the actual look. Like, we've seen chin up, we've seen chin down. Let's see chin forward and actually see what the face looks like in normal movements, and we'll see that soon enough, I guess.
Ian, you have any follow-up thoughts, man, on this piece?
I know yesterday I was all hard on like, yeah, man, they totally could have changed stuff. They could have changed stuff. But it's one of those things that in hindsight, like you think about it, you say it, you think about it, you walk away from it. Johnny and I were talking about even like watching a Star Wars movie like The Last Jedi. You see it, you're like, okay, you walk away from it, you think about it, and suddenly you have a whole new idea. And I'm okay if they touch it up. I'm fine with it. And if this is the result of touching it up, again, I'm fine with it. Something that I've just been kind of playing through with my head in my head was the teeth. Has the Grand Inquisitor's teeth ever looked like the Pau'an's teeth from the Revenge of the Sith?
Oh man, I wouldn't know. I've only seen Rebels through one time, so
I'm looking. I pulled up a photo just sort of comparison, and there was one with the open teeth, and he does have the more
like fang-like vampire teeth, kind of weirdly.
I was going to say like sharkish alligator.
Sharkish, sure, yeah. Sorry,
yeah.
Like I just remember the front two teeth being pronounced really.
Yeah,
sharp,
it's much more pronounced.
And yeah, so the teeth aren't something that I'd get stuck up on. I'm really that wouldn't bother me at all. If they never went around to doing that, if they had
human
to touch
teeth
up the
are
head,
drastically different person to person, so that's not
sure.
deal.
Yeah. And you know what? If they say the Grand Inquisitor paid for some Imperial dentures, go for it. But
yeah, the Empire has a great dental plan. Didn't you know that?
Join the dark side. They've got cookies and a dental plan.
And health insurance too. Look at Vader.
Yeah, this is a very good point all around. But I'm not against it, man. I'm not against them doing it if they do touch it up. Did they touch it up? I don't know. It looks like it could be. It could be an angle factor. The truth of this matter is, as far as I see it, and until we see possibly another image, if that, we won't know the truth until we see the live footage. And that's kind of what I'm settled at now. And seeing this angle, I'm okay with what I get.
Apologies. As we're on air doing this, there's Halloween stuff coming coming in that will be the subject of Fandom Empire Live, I guess, as you're listening to this next, but as we're recording this later tonight. So take a little journey with us. Let's go on a little journey to the Obi Wan Kenobi limited series. And I think what we're going to do here is very quickly, I'm just going to walk you through the events of the series. And if at any point you think I'm getting too spoilery, in fact, why don't I do this? I thought somebody showed. I was listening to someone else's tech stream on StreamYards, looking at some different things you can do that they don't necessarily just come out and advertise. And I'm trying to figure out how to put up a spoiler warning.
I thought you just had a soundboard that would go like, spoiler alert, spoiler alert, baby, baby.
Yeah, we don't have one of those buttons assigned yet, though. We probably should.
Oh, but if you do that, if you do a soundboard, can you make it Akmar? It's a trap.
Anyways, just know we're talking spoilers. This is not a safe stream if you're spoiler sensitive.
So hold on, before we get into the spoilers, like the heavier spoilers, are we going to stick with spoilers for the rest of the show?
That's up to you guys.
Because if we are, and somebody were to click it off here and be like, nah, you know what, I'm not up for spoilers, I do have a quick pronunciation check I'd be curious about with you guys on a character's name, and it's not spoiler related.
Or whatever. No, we'll switch topics for sure, but go ahead, bring it up.
So, really quick, like, I just want to get your weight in on this one, because a friend of mine has been adamant about this. You have the twins in the expanded universe, this being Han Solo and Leia's children. What are their names?
Jaina and Jason.
Yeah,
and Johnny?
Jason and Jaina.
Okay, because he insists and has insisted every year I've known this man, as it's Jaqen.
That's tell him to listen to an audiobook.
I mean, like, I get it. It's Star Wars and names can be weird, but like, oh man, it drives a wedge between us every time. Like, we'll bring up Star Wars, he's like, yeah man, and Jaqen does this, and I'm like, Ethan.
You know
what? See, that's actually funny. This actually brings up a funny story back in the old RP days. I roleplayed a set of twins on one. I don't think Sean was a part of this one. This was one of the ones I was doing back when I was doing a ridiculous number of these things. I had a set of RP twins that were Jason and Jaqen. Only Jason's was pronounced and spelled with the QU, and Jaqen was with the Jason pronounced like spelling. So like just to confuse the out of people. But
that's rough, man.
Logically, you need either the Q or the K to make Jaqen, because you need it to make that sound. Like a hard C does not work for Jaqen.
No, and it like that's kind of always been me. I've always been a very hard like Jason person. In deep down, I kind of wish one of you just was very confidently, what? No, Jaqen, because I feel like that would have erupted into half an hour of fun. Anyways, I just, it's a fun little thing, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna throw that out there today, just because it's been bugging me in the back of my head for months.
We've actually had someone on the show, I guess not the current rendition of the show, but we've had someone on the show before who is an author on those books. And then we also had the audiobook narrator, and then we also had a guy that did fan films on those books. And I can confirm 100%.
All of them pronounced to Jason.
It's Jason.
I am 100% linking this with timestamp to Ethan. Yes.
So I guess unless you can find George Lucas saying, "Yeah, it's Jaqen," then you're
the All Father. Yeah.
You know
And
what?
you know what? What scares me is that I feel like that's something he would agree with just for fun.
What I find mildly interesting, though, is I think if your friend has been pronouncing it that way his whole life, whenever he reads it, obviously he hasn't listened to an audiobook because he wouldn't be pronouncing it that way. But anytime he gets this now, that means you have like that's just this the pronunciation he has for it, which
Yeah.
I get because let me tell you, they pronounce Ebonhawk the Ebon Hawk
Oh God, no.
in the
That's not a thing.
an audiobook, and my God, like I literally remember being like, "What the fuck?"
No, that's not a thing. I mean, it is a thing, but it's no.
But what I like about those kinds of situations is, I mean, we're talking about a galaxy far, far away, and we're talking about the possibility of a living universe, a living galaxy. Just yesterday, Sean and I were talking about Aurebesh and Basic, and sure, everyone speaks Basic, but everyone has an accent. And so it lifts space for people to have these weird little nuances and names. And I'm all for it. But when they're just like, listen, it's the only way to say it, I'm like, okay. There's a collectively acceptable way to say it, but there is a wrong way to argue it as being like this is the popular way to say it, especially when 9 out of 10 people are saying Jason. I just wanted to throw it out because it's
acceptable when you get the written word to pronounce it your own. Like the narrator in your head is going to pronounce it a specific way every time you read a new name. Sometimes that's going to be the right way. Sometimes that's going to be the wrong way. In Star Wars, more often than not, it's probably the wrong way because, like there's so many odd spellings, like, like look at
apostrophes.
Exactly. And dashes and spaces and just weird vowel combinations. And
what if the whole time the hyphen was enunciated and R2D2 was R2D2?
But like that's just it. Like when you create those things in your mind, when you read the words first, like I was always I read the book. Sean's always been I listen to the book. Yeah. And so of course we've always had, some names that will banter on, pronunciation and like it just comes down to your own mind, right? Like if you listen to it, okay. If you don't, either pronunciation is acceptable, but one's wrong.
Yeah. They're all acceptable, but they're also
it's
wrong.
like it's one thing to say, in my head it's pronounced Jackin because that's the way I first started reading it, and it continues that way. Well, that's fine, but don't argue that that's his actual pronunciation because it's not.
Yeah.
But if you pronounce it that way in your head, all the power to you. Nobody can control the thoughts in your head. Many people have tried.
Go in that direction. All right, so
that was fun.
Let's dive into Kenobi. I'm gonna do my best to walk a tight rope here, and not cross lines you guys don't want crossed. At the same time, I'm firmly of the opinion that, especially with Star Wars and its volatility lately, if you know the spoilers going into it, you might be better off. That way you can set realistic expectations for yourself and not completely destroy it. Oh, God. Is it Kashyyyk or Kashyyyk?
It's Kashyyyk.
I've always said Kashyyyk.
Just for those who wouldn't know that, I wrote in the chat that it's like there could be a whole segment about that. Is it Kashyyyk or Kashyyyk? Is it Utapau or Utapo? How do we say these names? Because like even Captain Shack on YouTube, like he does Age of the Empire videos, and I forgot. There's this one name he says. I'm like, it's not said that way. And I've typed in the comments, and I'll be that guy, but I'm like, it's not said that way. Sorry. Please continue. I'm sorry.
All right. So the events of Obi Wan Kenobi pick up 10 years after Revenge of the Sith. Kenobi, again, I'm going to leave some stuff up for interpretation because I don't know the answers to them. Again, all this stuff is coming from places like Making Star Wars, places like Bespin Bulletin, guys that have a damn near flawless track record. And by the way, there's supposed to be some clips arriving, and if it's not today, my guess is it's tomorrow.
If it's not tomorrow, it's the day after that.
It may actually be right now as we're on air. Let's see. No, I don't think so.
No,
But
all
stuff-
my news is 23 hours ago, 19 hours ago.
All right. So anyway, takes place 10 years after the events of Revenge of the Sith. Obi Wan Kenobi is watching over Luke Skywalker, but he's not allowed to interact with him. And they'll dive into the Uncle Ben, Uncle Owen, the Uncle Owen and Obi-Wan Kenobi stuff. Obviously, that's existed since the very first Star Wars movie in 1977, and you're going to dive into that. And why wouldn't you? You have Joel Edgerton, obviously way more established than when he was in the prequels. You want to make sure you use him properly, and it sounds like they do it. I don't believe Kenobi's disconnected from the Force, but I do believe he's hiding his presence and isn't actively a Jedi Knight, if that makes sense. He's doing his training he's supposed to do, but he actually has an actual daily job that he has to attend, and so like he's pretty out of the game other than looking over Luke. This one, Johnny, I think you and I speculated this as soon as we heard there was going to be a Kenobi movie way back when we had the scoop in 2016 on Star Wars Wastelands. That if he's to leave the planet, it has to be for a good reason. And as we know now, the reason is, well, Bail Organa comes calling, and his former best friend's kid has, I don't know if missing's the word, but has gotten in over her little 10-year-old head in a very serious way. And so he goes on a rescue mission for Leia. Now, there's some events that allow this to happen. It's not just like, okay, yeah, I'm taking off. He gets this mission while the Inquisitors are actively on Tatooine. So for him, it's like, if I leave Tatooine, I'm actually protecting Luke by bringing them further away from him. And that's what he does. And he goes on a Leia rescue mission, and that's the first couple episodes. Is heavily, character based with Kenobi, and then episodes 3 through 6 really dive into the Kenobi and Vader stuff, and we know Vader tracks him down. We know there's 2 fights. The thing that kind of intrigues me, though, is it sounds like, and again, I don't have the details on this, but the first fight happens on some sort of ship, from what I understand. And it's Kenobi fleeing with Leia. He has rescued Leia, and they're trying to get the hell out of Dodge. And they run into Darth Vader and the Inquisitors, I believe. I don't believe it's just Vader that traps them. I believe it's Vader and the Inquisitors that trap Kenobi and Leia. And to make matters worse, we'll take a break here and dissect what we've talked about. But what makes matters worse is, from what I understand, he also happens to run into these guys his very first time leaving the planet since Revenge of the Sith. He runs into them, and he just so happens to not have his lightsaber. So, not a great position to be in. Thoughts so far, fellas? Again, there's a lot more in there that I'm not touching on. There's a lot more with the Inquisitors. There's a lot more with another Force-using character who I can divulge information on. Or can't, that's up to you guys, but you would not have heard of the character. It's not like, oh, boom, and then the Emperor shows up, and it's nothing like that.
This
helps move the story.
And this is something, we've talked about this ad nauseum on the show in the past, as far as the Leia and Obi-Wan thing, since that became more prevalent. But to me, it just painted this image in my head that this brings whole new light to a specific part of the original trilogy. Help me, Obi Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope. We always assumed that it was Bail. Had told her stories of Obi-Wan, the great Jedi General Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now we're going to have Leia having bona fide first-person experience of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
So I just got caught thinking I'm on camera and I'm not. Holding my hand up, but I guess you can't see that. I don't know that's the case. There's a chance that she doesn't know who he is. At least when they first meet, she definitely does not know who he is.
Well, I mean,
But there
that's
are events
entirely.
that happen
but that's still
would know who he is.
it still lends like credence to the idea. Like eventually she'll figure it out.
Let's be honest. This is Leia Organa we're talking about here. There's no way she's going to let this mysterious stranger save her life and have him just, disappear from her life as the mysterious stranger. She's going to eventually dig into who this man is.
It sounds like they have a little bit of a prickly relationship to begin.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Leia Organa has a prickly relationship with
She's
everyone.
a Skywalker. She's a Skywalker.
Yeah.
They all have a prickly relationship. They're all little rebels in every single way.
She's a prickly relationship with her twin brother.
Yes.
Let's take a deep dive into this for a
Very
second.
interesting
So,
relationship.
for the diehards, they'll love it. For the people that aren't diehards, you're going to think we're going too far. But emotionally, let's talk about like what something like that would mean to Obi-Wan. As we know, he lost everything. I'm not just talking Satine. I'm talking the Jedi Order, Qui-Gon, Anakin, Padme, his life, his existence, basically. It has some meaning because he's looking over Luke. That's his mission. But I can only imagine emotionally, like after looking over Luke for 10 years, what it would be like to then meet Leia and the callbacks that he would feel through the Force and even not through the Force, just naturally as a person, being with Anakin and Padme's daughter. There's a part of that I hope that if they're really treating this with love and care, will absolutely play into the show. I can't say it does, but it should. Thoughts on that, fellas?
I would not be surprised if
ahead,
at some point Obi-Wan doesn't accidentally call her Padme, or slip something, or Your Highness or something. Something he would have said to Padme, to Leia, that he sort of does unintentionally, and sort of has that moment of, I'm not talking to her. You know what I mean? Like, sort of that witty banter they always had. Something like that slipping out in a moment of pressure that he doesn't realize, and just sort of has that moment of, because to me he was always paying his his respect to Anakin, and his doing his best for Anakin by looking after Luke. Well, now here's his chance to do the same for Padme by looking after her daughter.
Yeah, that's. I like the idea of the confusion between the two of them. That I mean, like it's a habit that might come out of him. I think we might well see different personality traits in between Anakin and Padme here. I do think we're going to see him really face a lot of internal struggle, and whether that comes out, well, I hope it doesn't come out in the same way that the sequel trilogy Luke comes out, which is a lot of deniability, just a lot of denying and denying and denying, because there's pain there. And I hope he doesn't do that, because Qui-Gon would have taught him better than that. And Qui-Gon is... Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Can I tell you guys about an event that happens very early in the series to kick things off? It's not going to impact the end game. It's not going to impact, the Kenobi with Vader stuff. But it does impact Kenobi himself, and maybe even answers that question for Ian a little bit. That's up to you guys, though.
I'm not against it. It's whether you want to tell listeners that.
No, I'm fine. We've already talked about it openly over.
They're listening. They got themselves in this problem already.
There's a big bar on the bottom that says "spoiler warning." If you're not prepared, you should be.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, I don't mind.
I'm not against it. I'm also translating Orabesh in the background, so I mean,
the reason the Inquisitors come to Tatooine is they're hot on the trails of a Jedi escapee or whatever, fugitive. And it's a younger Jedi by the name of Nari. I'm guessing he's in like his 20s, so he probably was like a Padawan teenager or something when Order 66 went down. And I don't know how he figures out Obi-Wan is on Tatooine, but he figures out Obi-Wan is on Tatooine. And the dialogue we hear in the trailer with the battle is lost, or the battle is over, we lost, is actually Obi-Wan Kenobi talking to this other Jedi character, Nari. Nari has gone to Kenobi for help. He wants to make a stand. He wants to take down the Empire. He's there to recruit Kenobi. Well, Kenobi's got another mission that he can't let Nari know about. And Kenobi's advice he gives him are bury your lightsaber and forget that you were a Jedi. In order just like for survival. Poor Nari buries his lightsaber.
Well, now we know where Obi-Wan's getting that lightsaber he needs.
So,
look at all these people burying lightsabers all over the galaxy.
Everybody buries lightsabers on Tatooine.
This is the new Jedi. Look at all the kyber crystal. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so Kenobi, for all intents and purposes, gets this kid killed. And I think it weighs on him pretty heavily. And yeah, and I think there's a chance, I don't know for sure, at least it was rumored early, that we were actually going to see how this kid survives Order 66 in the temple. I don't know if that's still how the show's going to open, but it's how it was supposed to open to begin with.
I hope it's not the kid that goes, Master Anakin, they're everywhere. What do we do?
I think that kid's toast. Fair.
Yeah. Even if that kid wasn't toast, he'd have no fight in him.
No. No. It's gonna be one of those kids that jumped out at the speeder to help Bail Organa and try to pass the message on.
Any thoughts, psychologically speaking, guys, on how something like that would affect Kenobi? What are your thoughts on it?
I don't want it to go Luke Skywalker sequel series. I didn't like that look. I didn't like that. Like, oh, I'm experiencing pain, so I need to regret, like, push everything away because pain is suffering and suffering leads to the dark side. I don't want that. I want ownership of those emotions. I want Qui-Gon's training for Obi-Wan to come through, help Obi-Wan come through to a nice middle ground. And it might start with him being in a lot of pain, and it might end up with him coming to terms with all of it. And I'd be okay with that growth level, like that growth kind of path. But I don't want the opportunity, especially being so close to Qui-Gon's training directly. Qui-Gon, the reason I'm so fascinated on that, and I know you guys know this, but listeners might not know this, is the idea of this gray Jediism, this middle path Force users. Qui-Gon is a sentinel of this. He's got this ideology about him that is like, hey, like the Jedi High Council and their inactivity, their passiveness was wrong. And it rings very similar to Revan and the Revanites and the idea of, hey, this passivity, this is bad. Like, the galaxy is dying. We need to do something to try and stop the death from happening. For Obi-Wan to be so close to that, to have seen such darkness and downfall in his own Padawan and best friend and his brother, Anakin, I'd like to see this growth to come to terms with some reality.
Don't forget that Kenobi holds the Jedi partially responsible for
yes,
Anakin's
everything.
fall. You know, and it's
everything. Yes,
saying forget the Jedi way. I think he was just saying to Nari, like, hey, it's his way of being like, yeah, bury your lightsaber and forget that you're a Jedi if you want to live. Because I'm busy with a far more important mission, and I'm sorry I can't take a time out to help you.
Yeah.
And hey, that's not very old style Jedi like, but he knows his mission. His mission is there for Luke. So like the fact that he even leaves is kind of a big one. Some people hate that he's leaving at all, but it almost had to be Leia. I don't think there was another circumstance that would have made sense for him to leave the planet. But anyway,
I mean, there could have been, but it would have required a lot of hand-holding and playing with.
To me, that's the no-brainer. We're doing a 6-episode limited series.
Yeah, that is a no-brainer. I think they could have taken it a very different direction. Quinlan Vos is still alive.
Yeah,
he never died. Canonically, Quinlan Vos never died. He's on Kashyyyk.
Oh, there was. I mean, there's been Mace rumors too, but
can we not?
I believe
it. Oh my god, I can't with that.
What part? Quinlan Vos?
No, Mace. Like,
Quinlan
makes sense.
Because wanted Mace to come back so Boba could get his revenge. But I was always of the thought if Mace was to come back, he should have survived because of the influence in the dark side, and he used the dark side alive, and have Kenobi take him out. Have Mace be the one that figures out, oh, Anakin did have offspring. Well, here's his revenge, and then we get a Kenobi versus Mace match.
You and I have talked about that. Mace Windu is the closest to the dark side Jedi Master in the High Council. He is so powerful. And so willing to act and so quick to act. Mace Windu is the perfect individual in the High Council to be that one who would follow the dark side. And utter betrayal of Anakin, like Anakin betraying him, although Anakin's doing it for a very obviously selfish reason. But like
nobly selfish.
Yeah, weirdly nobly selfish. He saw Palpatine dying. He didn't see Palpatine as Sidious. He saw the Jedi Council usurping the Republic. And he's like, oh my god, this isn't how it should go. This is wrong. And he intercedes and intervenes this. And not intercedes. Intervenes here.
I think that
Mace Windu would have a vengeance cycle. He would have been betrayed. He would have fallen to the dark side. The hatred would keep him alive. Same way that Anakin's kept alive as Vader. It would be cool, but I don't know if they would ever go with it.
I think Padme and the kid was always number one for him. I know the novel says he's thinking about Padme and basically makes the choice right there and then. But don't forget, the Jedi do wrong Anakin. They literally make him commit treason in order to spy on the Emperor. And even though they had the right.
They also tried to say, hey, listen, this High Council seat, it's yours. But guess what? Not a master. Like, what? That's betrayal.
Yeah, and Mace all but admits in, I think it's Labyrinth of Evil, the prequel to Revenge of the Sith, that they would never grant Skywalker mastership as long as Palpatine was the Chancellor and their close relationship. And it's pretty fucked up. The Jedi definitely lost their way, and I know that's one thing Yoda talks to Qui-Gon about at the end of the Revenge of the Sith novel is that he failed, and he failed to adapt the Jedi and be more like Qui-Gon was. Anyway, Kenobi and Vader encounter one another. I believe it's on a vessel. I could be wrong. I think it is. And I also believe, again, I can't say for certain, I can't remember Making Star Wars has done so many streams on this now. But I believe we might be getting our first red lightsaber blade on red lightsaber blade battle in Star Wars. And I believe it's Kenobi versus Vader. I believe Kenobi may find a way to disarm one of the Inquisitors and get one of their lightsabers. Anyways, Kenobi loses the first fight. He gets pretty. Actually, I won't tell you how or what, or not necessarily why it happens. I don't know what the dialogue is, like in the whole show at all. Period. Like, I know Vader and Kenobi have dialogue. That much Bespin Bulletin making Star Wars have put out. I know for a fact they discuss Padme in the second battle very briefly, which pisses Vader off. But other than that, see, I have no context to like what's happening in these scenes as it's happening, other than it's from what I understand, Saw Gerrera's people from Rogue One that save Kenobi and Leia and get them out of there. And that's how Ian and I talked about this for our Patreon stream the other day. They come across this. It's not like by accident either. Saw Gerrera knows it's there. And it's almost like this Force colony, Johnny, that they come across. And dare I say the Force colony is kind of like, I wouldn't call it official Grey Jedi, but it's probably like the closest thing to Grey Jedi you can have, as there's no actual Force teachers teaching these Force sensitive teenagers and younglings how to, harness their power, basically. They're almost having to be self-taught, so they're not Jedi either, and they're not Sith. They're somewhere in between, and they come upon that residence, and I will say this: a pretty significant event happens there. A couple of them, but one's like really big. It's your guys' choice if you'd like me to divulge that. You can take some guesses if you want, and I'll go hot and cold. That's up to you two.
I like the hot and cold thing, because eventually it's either we all decide we don't do it anymore, or we get it. And when you get it, it's a reward. But Johnny, what do you think? What would you prefer?
I mean, I'm okay going hot and cold.
Or how about you start us out? I did hot and cold with Sean yesterday, and
Jesus.
Yeah.
A significant event. I don't really want to say any more until I know if you guys are close to it. And I don't know the location either. I wish I did. I wish I could sit here and say I know exactly what planet they're on. I don't. I just know they're among a Force colony of people. And I believe Jamil Nanjiani, or whatever the heck the guy's name, Camille Nanjiani.
Yes.
Is it an Ice Cube or Ice T's son that's in the show? I can't remember. But I believe it involves those two as well. So
I don't think Ice Cube has a kid in acting yet.
I don't know.
Just Ice-T. Oh man. I mean, the whole time we were talking about the colony and this sort of gray, my mind just kept going back to the Bendu.
I would say that's cold. The event has lots of action. I'll say that.
I'm gonna jump in the deep end here and say this is gonna be one of the appearances of either Vader or a full siege by the Inquisitors that we're gonna see. And I think we see 3 Inquisitors, and it will lead to the death of the entire camp.
I think it's 4 Inquisitors in the trailer.
Is it 4? Okay.
Well, we know we have the Grand Inquisitor, and we know we have the 5th brother. We know we have Reva, who we haven't even touched on at all, and we won't on this stream, but she is very important to the show.
Oh, she's everywhere from the images, from the looks of it, yeah.
But you're boiling.
Hey! It looks like it's going to be a fun time. Well, fun time for the Inquisitors.
The way it's been described is a more hands-on Order 66 Part 2. If that makes sense.
That's fitting for the Inquisitors. The Inquisitors' whole purpose is to find any Force sensitives and either convert them or eliminate them. That's their whole prerogative.
I believe they're following Vader's lead in the scene, because at that point I think they're close to...
Oh, I want to see more Vader, just like strong Vader walking through. Johnny, so Sean and I talked about how much of a drama queen Anakin is. A couple days ago, about how in Rogue One, like one of the most amazing moments in all of the most amazing, arguably, moment in all of Rogue One is when Vader shows up. But the most amazing part out of it is that it starts on a whole black screen, and that guy has turned off his life support systems to turn the chest piece off. The lights are if his life support system is running, the lights are on. He turned it all off to just kind of be like, I am the darkness. I am Batman in Star Wars. And then he turns it on to go attack them. Like, he's such a drama queen. But I still want to see that. Not drama queen. I said diva. I think diva is the better way to do it. But I still, oh God, I just want to see Vader walking, fighting, killing. I don't even want to see him running. Just
You
walking.
see all of that.
I can't wait.
You just want to see Darth Vader go full Terminator, and that makes sense.
I can't wait. Yeah, Terminator, exactly. I can't wait. I'm ready for it.
Badass Vader, and you're definitely going to see Vader, borderline even Anakin at his most vulnerable. So you're going to see a bit of them both. But yeah, so those events happen. There's some confusion as to where Kenobi is, because Kenobi was there to get healed from his fight. Something fairly bad happens to him. And then all I know is we get a showdown between Kenobi and Vader on the moon of Mustafar. But this time it's not Vader tracking down Kenobi. Kenobi goes and seeks him out. And Kenobi also it's kind of time sensitive because Kenobi knows he has to get somewhere else fairly quickly. But knows he has to encounter Vader again. So he takes it into his own hands. But never in a million years, I don't think anybody, when theorizing, okay, so how's the second battle going to go? I don't know. I don't have all the context of the battle. I just know 3 significant events that happens. Johnny, I think we've talked about this publicly on air. Vader wins the first fight. Kenobi wins the second fight. So it's just how it goes. But there's 2 very significant things that take place during the final fight between those 2 prior to A New Hope. One of them is something that I don't think anybody could guess in terms of how the fight is structured. I know I never would have predicted it. And the other thing is an iconic visual, which I think we've talked about online on one of our shows, but I can't remember. Any questions come to mind? In fact, just in terms of the series in general, if you guys have any questions, feel free to lob them at me now, and we'll go over as best as we can, and then we'll move on to nights and wrap things up.
I mean, I really don't have any.
I'm thinking of how that fight could be framed, and I want to guess it.
Never-
The fact that, like, I could never guess it. Like, listen, I know you and I used to be a tag team in trivia, but now it's time for me to become the master. That's
I don't think it's ever been done this way in Star Wars before.
There's no
Not
lightsabers
in a
punching each other.
melee combat fight, anyway. Not in a lightsaber battle.
So it's a ranged combat. Very cool, Obi Wan. Very cool indeed. He doesn't have the high ground. He has the far ground. No, don't confirm that. How dare you? No,
It's a ridiculous one. That can't be true.
I
Yeah,
can't let them do that. It's got to be close up.
I have no context on how any of the battles end. I just know that.
Oh, okay. But you know that they're ranged weapons. Wow. That'll be weird. That'll be really weird.
I know that it's not necessarily, it's not necessarily a one-on-one fight, if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, it's either. I think you and I talked about it. I don't remember if we said it in any form of recording, but I wouldn't be shocked if Vader kills some of the Inquisitors himself. It's not untoward him. It's not something that would surprise me. He's an all or nothing kind of guy for everybody except Ahsoka, which says a lot. Sorry, go ahead.
We know 2 of the Inquisitors have to live because they're in Rebels, but I have no idea the fates of the other 2.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if he spares Obi. Or not spare in a way of like, he's mine for later.
Nobody kills him but me.
Yeah. because they still have to get us to my old master. I haven't felt this since my old master. Like they've got to get us to him gamifying this relationship to the point that he'll put off all of his duties to go and chase down Obi-Wan in the original trilogy.
If you guys guess it, I'll say it, but I'm not just going to come out and tell it, but I'll give you this last hint. It will make a lot of Star Wars fans that like a specific area of Star Wars very, very happy.
They're not going back to Mustafar.
No, it's the moon of Mustafar.
Yeah, they're not going back to Mustafar.
Well, sorry,
Like a specific
the show does
area.
go to Mustafar.
Yeah, but like I mean, like that's not going to be the big fight. They've already done it. For people who like a very specific, no. See, I know Hoth is my favorite in the OT, but that wouldn't do it. Now you got me. Now you got me more interested. Camino? No.
No, location-wise, it's the moon of Mustafar, so it's not has nothing to do with.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant location-wise.
No, it's right by Mustafar.
Yeah. But the way you phrased the question, I thought you meant like people who like a planet will see the planet. Oh.
I was trying not to completely give it all away by using area as a word.
No. That's totally fair. That's totally fair. I just think one of them will have the high ground.
So I'll ask this. The last question for Kenobi is: we know there's 2 fights between him and Vader. We know he goes on the Leia rescue mission. We know that there's Tatooine to begin the show and Tatooine to end the show, and stuff with Luke. But we also know that there's already been some early talks of the potential of doing more because of how well this has apparently gone off and how much faith they have in this product. My question is this: should they do more than one Kenobi limited series? Do they do a season 2, pending on success? Or should they just say, you know what, that's enough, and maybe we'll revisit the character in a few years for something else? My opinion is, before you guys have your say, is if they do more, it needs to be a completely different story. You can't go back to the Vader well again. I'm not saying you can't follow Darth Vader during a Kenobi series on some mission, killing some random Jedi hidden out on whatever planet, but you cannot have them encounter each other again after this limited series. That's too much. In fact, 2 fights in the limited series might be too much. I always thought it was going to lead up to this one big showdown, but it doesn't go down that way. So would you be down for a Kenobi series that obviously doesn't have the stakes or necessarily the nostalgia that this one does? Thoughts?
Johnny, what do you think?
I mean, I think that based solely on the time period that we've put this in, that you can't really come back to Obi-Wan. I don't think, not in the same way. Like, you're too close to everything that's about to happen. So it just, I don't know. I have a hard time coming back to Obi Wan Kenobi's with another story, unless it is. You know what? I don't even know that because they used it already. Like, the only thing I could have imagined coming back after this would have been was the Twin Sons episode of Rebels had never happened.
Yeah.
And you get Darth Maul coming back for his vengeance.
Yeah.
Then yes, that would have made perfect sense for a second season of Obi Wan Kenobi, because let's be honest, it would have been freaking amazing, I'm sure.
You do a Kenobi series, you want to end like it's Ewan McGregor, it's Obi Wan Kenobi. You want, at the very least, for him to get one lightsaber duel in. That's what everybody wants to see.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, who could you pair him up against? You could pair him up against a random Inquisitor, I suppose.
Mace Windu.
I mean, as crazy as it sounds, that would be believable in a weird way. Like, if you bring Mace back as a
And he
living
comes after
person and
Luke
his mission
instead of
is coming
Leia.
after Luke, then okay,
Yeah.
that could make sense for a
I'd
second
be
season.
so down for that.
Let it be heard here first that if that happens, it's because of us.
I mean, and if I'm being honest, that's probably the only way I could buy it, because then
Me too.
you've got the star power of Ewan, add in the star power of Sam Jackson, and you've got stars to build upon. Whereas
Yeah,
this
and
one you've got Ewan, but you've got Darth Vader, not so much. Hayden isn't so much important as the Darth Vader is important.
That's weird. It's true. It's not about Hayden Christensen. It's about Vader. Everybody who's played Vader has pretty much been overshadowed by Vader. That's a really weird actor-character relationship, where the character, I mean, like Tony Stark and Robert Downey Jr., they're inseparable. They're both equally as famous.
I think the difference is
Vader is just like.
Yeah, I think the difference there with like other characters is, if you look at Chewie, it doesn't matter who's in the suit, because the character doesn't speak. Vader speaks, and that's the difference. His voice is, it's not the person in the suit. His voice is James Earl Jones, and
I would not count your chickens on that one.
No, but I'd throw against that as well, because otherwise that's saying that people associate Vader as James Earl Jones.
Oh, hang on. Let me rephrase that.
Vader's Vader.
Yeah, I think Vader is Vader, but I do think his voice.
I'm saying the voice is more important than the person in the suit.
Sure, but the voice can be faked.
Sure, but they're going to be doing James Earl Jones.
But I think Vader versus Chewbacca, suit or whatever, like voice, regardless.
Yeah, that's
it doesn't matter.
Irrelevant. You can put any 7 foot tall
Vader
person
as a character. Is so weirdly big compared to the actors. I don't know. Like that's a weird one for me. I don't know. Sorry, sorry, Sean, you wanted to say something, then I'll retract
this
back
is rumor.
to the original
This is
idea.
rumor. I can't back this up. No one's been able to back it up yet.
Hayden Christensen's the new voice. Just kidding.
It's my opinion. I don't believe it's James Earl Jones. For Kenobi,
it's fakeable now. You know what? Technology is there now.
And the Luke thing from the Book of Boba Fett.
I mean, let's be honest. James Earl Jones is 91 years old.
You could tell in Rogue One it was off. You can tell in Rebels it's off. And to be honest, with how front and center Vader is in this, I love James Earl Jones. He's a legend. He will be remembered forever. I don't think he's capable of performing at the level that they need for Vader in this series. I don't think he's back. And when they asked Hayden Christensen about it, Total Film, all he had to say was no comment.
Interesting. That can go either way, yeah.
I mean, but the point still changed. Whoever is doing the voice will be doing James Earl Jones, or their approximation of it.
Well, yes. But I mean, again, though, that's not a James Earl Jones thing. James Earl Jones did Vader.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that he acted Vader. I'm saying that he created Vader, and in terms of the voice and presence there. And that's not James Earl Jones' normal voice. That's James Earl Jones doing Vader. So people aren't doing James Earl Jones. They're doing Vader. Vader is just that. It's just, you brought it up, and it kind of like it stood out to me as a very poignant idea that Vader exists very much outside of actors. In a greater sense. And that's kind of a cool concept to me to just even think about. Now, just to backtrack a little bit, in terms of a season 2 for Obi-Wan, I hope that's not their script plan. I would rather they have a very concrete script.
They do it as Deborah Chow has already admitted it as a.
I hope they don't edit or change it to make it open. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
I mean, you don't
have a script
to
and cut scenes to make it a little open. I want it to have a definitive ending. And if they, Sean, you said it would have to be something totally different. I agree. It would have to be something totally different. I don't want any of this like episodes. But like I don't want this to be like an episode 6 ending, and then season 2 episode 1 opening connecting to the ending. I don't want that opportunity to happen. I want it to be very clear. this is the end. And if they do a season 2, make us happy.
My dream ending for this series, it's only 6 episodes long.
And we'll have to revisit this idea actually as we get like halfway through the show, because dream endings will change.
My dream ending as it stands right now, knowing how things go for the most part, is I haven't been able to, I have not heard any confirmation that Luke and Obi-Wan have any scenes together. Obi-Wan wants to. That's kind of the whole.
Obviously, you mean physically.
Yeah,
we know they have scenes together.
We know Kenobi is watching him, but an actual.
There's no interaction.
And they should, because it's clear that they've met in A New Hope. So my hope would be the very last thing we see on screen is Kenobi and Luke meeting, and we get the Tatooine sunset with the two of them. That's my dream ending.
But in A New Hope, we're not too keen on the idea of them meeting. Luke is highly aware of the existence of Ben Kenobi.
Well, I mean, we know they do, right?
Yeah, but
Black Krrsantan instant.
But it's not like they're meeting up, and hanging out.
It's more like hey, I ran.
This is
I mean, I could see. I
went down to Toshi Station to get some power converters, and I ran into old Ben, and I gave him a ride home.
Yeah, he's the guy you run into at the Tim Hortons.
Yes,
you get to know him
around the corner.
My guess is if we get an ending like that, it's it's Obi-Wan returning to the planet, and Anakin is with Anakin. Oh boy, not Anakin. Wow. Luke is with Uncle Ben at Toshi Station or something, and he bumps into Obi-Wan, and maybe even you get Uncle Ben saying something sort of derogative.
I'm doing what I did. He's crossing over Spider-Man in Star Wars.
Uncle Ben.
I'm very much doing that, and not even putting. And then you say it, it's like, I'm not doing that. Oh my god, I am doing that.
That is true. Wow, that flew by me too. I was like, wait a second, hold on, Uncle. That would be Uncle Lars. Yeah. Wow. Uncle Ben. No, hold on. Oh wait, no. What does Luke call when he goes back home? He goes, Aunt Beru,
Uncle Owen.
Uncle Owen.
I was crossing the streams there in a weird way.
Oh, that's weird. Yeah, that's why. It's because Aunt Beru
Luke and Uncle Owen at Toshi Station or wherever bumping into Obi-Wan, and then you hear Owen say something sort of derogative. Stay away from that old man or something.
Well, a little fun thing we know is, again, this is minor. This is Easter egg shit. The T-16 Skyhopper that Luke Skywalker is playing with in A New Hope, he gets from Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I like it.
I think that's what sort of gets their story started. Is Owen won't let Obi-Wan give him a gift. Oh man, good shit though. Good shit. The Kenobi series. It is 1 month away tomorrow. We debut with 2 episodes. We get a 3rd episode on the Wednesday. So all in all, I guess the show will only be here 3.5 weeks, which is kind of weird.
It's going to go by very fast. What day does it come out on? What day of the week?
Friday.
Ooh.
Only the first 2 episodes, and then it goes to Wednesdays.
What specific? 13th or 20th?
27th.
The 27th. That's even worse. Why would you do this to me?
The 20th
I hold you responsible.
is the debut of the first 2 episodes. Although there'll be spoilers all over the internet because we believe that they're going to show those 2 episodes to the crowd at Celebration the day before. So,
I'm trying to figure out what time frame that's going to launch at. From May 27th, it could be my Saturday. It could be. It depends if it's going to launch at a midnight or an afternoon release for you guys. Do you know?
I mean, it would probably be the 3 a.m., 4 a.m. Eastern.
Yeah, so it'll be Friday morning for me when I see it.
Oh, gross. That'll be... No, that's unacceptable. If it's a 3... Wait, 3 a.m. Eastern?
Yeah.
All right,
I was
that's
gonna say, wouldn't that be like afternoon for you,
that's
Saturday?
yeah. No, that's pretty standard. Even Disney does that. They do about like a 1-2 p.m. thing, and then the
Well, I was
the
gonna say,
links.
when's the daily update for Disney Plus for you? Like when new stuff
I
comes out?
actually don't know.
It'll be the same time.
I've been
Whenever that
watching
is.
Moon Knight, but I get home at 9:30, and it's just up for me to watch Moon Knight. You know,
Well, then I guess the same
Um,
thing will happen here.
it's gross because of the idea that I had, but the idea falls through now.
One thing I want to do is once all the episodes are out, I want to go back and watch all 6 together. It'll be about 4.5
for sure.
hours of content, but I have not done that with Mando or Mando season 2. I have no desire to do it for the Book of Boba Fett because one, there are 8 episodes. I mean, same time though, 8 episodes of Mando is basically going to equal 6 episodes of Kenobi, from what I understand.
Yeah.
So definitely want to watch all 6 together and just marathon it one night, ideally, and it'd be a lot of fun.
Is it coming on Disney Plus? Is it a Disney Plus release?
Is what?
It is. It is. No, Obi-Wan. Sorry, I was just double checking if it was. I'm new to Disney Plus. I've only just recently got it, so I'm still a bit of backs on and figuring out how it all goes. I think the only
Disney
concurrent
Plus
release that I've had was Moon Knight and maybe one just before Moon Knight. So yeah, it's all quite new to me, the whole Disney Plus release schedule thing. But that'll be nice and easy. I like that.
All right, let's shift gears here as we get ready to wrap this stream up. We won't dive too far into it, but Ian and I did a video, an update on Knights of the Old Republic, the remake, and here's some of the things to recap. And I'm going to pull up my notes again. Johnny, maybe just give us your thoughts on it, because I don't think you've had your 2 cents on some of the Knights stuff that's come out recently, and we'll go back and forth. And
well, I mean, I guess the last that we talked about was the special edition thing.
Oh wow, it's been a while. That big like hard release. Are you talking about like the physical copy release?
No, I'm crossing streams again because I was actually thinking of the Force Unleashed, which we talked about.
Yeah. So
I'm not used to this afternoon streaming thing. My brain's still muddled. Still.
Here are some of the updates that are out there. The old turn-based style combat is out. It isn't straight up hack and slash. It is more along the lines of what BioWare did with the last couple of entries in Dragon Age.
Probably Dragon Age Inquisition, more specifically, yeah.
Which makes sense because many of the Asper staff is from a former BioWare employees who worked on both Knights of the Old Republic and Dragon Age.
If you don't mind me interjecting there, just to give a bit of context on what that means, because I know that I realized we didn't actually talk about that last time. Dragon Age Inquisition allows you to pause the game, like pause time, swap characters, choose their attacks, and swap back to your main character. Your main character will play very much almost like an action-based game based on the skills they have available. So instead of pausing and like siphoning through your skills between 3 different branches, like in the old games, you'll have a key map on your controller or keyboard. You will, or even on the computer with left click, like right click, like mousing on your, and like for basic attack and stuff. But you will be allowed to still, you should be allowed, if they do it D8, Dragon Age Inquisition, you should still be allowed to pause time. But it's just not a traditional turn-based, it's a hybrid system. Sorry, I just put that into more context. I realized we didn't do that last time. Go ahead.
So that was the big thing. The release window was rumored for 2024, early 2025. But the fact is the game's been in production a lot longer than that, it turns out. And their goal is Q4 2023, which makes sense because that would still be the 20th anniversary of Knights of the Old Republic. There's some swoop racing details as well, but I'll ask people if you want those details, head on over to our Patreon, patreon.com/Fandom Empire. There's a video up there that talks about the swoop racing and some soundtrack oriented stuff. So look for that over there. Customization options are apparently going to be way more vast than in the first 2 games. What I don't know though is if there'll be any like purchasable customization, like buy a skin, whatever. My thinking is there will be. It'll drive another revenue system for them. And people are going to want to play as Revan for longer than the last fucking 15% of the game. Let's be real. It's been long enough. People want to play as Revan, not as just some other random character. But we do know my guess is the customization options are going to be probably in line with what the Old Republic offers. And maybe slightly more. Because, Johnny, I don't remember the last time you played through either of the first two games, but the physical appearance customization options in the first two games are extremely limited.
I mean, they were a product of their time.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, similar item appearance, coloration differences. If they made an impact on your appearance at all, but Star Wars: Old Republic also has a limitation in and of itself, right? So I just hope it's an improvement upon all of it.
And then the final thing, most of the main story, main characters will stay in place, but there'll be some changes in place to enhance the story and the game. Several of the side quests will be completely different from the original game. So if anyone thought this was going to be a shot-for-shot remake, it's nowhere close to that. So, and it also sounds like the playing surfaces for each planet might be a little bigger as well, which shouldn't be that surprising, to be honest. Although even, considering when it came out in 2003, I think the Knights of the Old Republic surfaces aren't terrible in terms of how much space you get. So, there are the things that we got coming out from Knights of the Old Republic. There's a few more details, but head on over to Patreon for that. Johnny, just thoughts about a game that hopefully is only about a year and a half away or so.
I mean, I'm cautiously excited for it. Remakes they're just that. They're never going to capture me in the way a new title will, because you know the destination. The ride is going to be similar. Like, yes, you're adding some new stops along the road, but the main drive is still the same. So it'll be fun to play through it again. With modern graphics and
Oh, sorry, I forgot a piece. They've built everything. So just so we're clear, when you see the Ebon Hawk, it's still going to look like the Ebon Hawk. It'll just be modernized. But when you're on Worlds and you think if something's just going to look more modernized, no, they've built everything from scratch ups or from ground up. So, like, you will see a lot of environments look completely different from how they looked in the first game. Not to say it's not a remake, and it definitely is. But I know there's some people that thought that we were just going to get sort of a modernization of it, and that was it. And it's definitely more than that. The curious thing, I think Ian and I brought this up last stream, is the original Knights of the Old Republic game had a planet that's similar to Mustafar that was taken out of it right before launch and never put back in. And it also had the droid planet taken out of it. So I'm curious if those two things will be put back into the game.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we toyed with on one of the recent things, them putting, the removed content from 2 back in. So I don't know. We'll see.
I want to hear both of your thoughts on something actually about companions. So Sean, correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like nothing guaranteed. Obviously, it's all speculation at this point, at least from my understanding. But companions will more or less stay the same as the last update you got.
From what I understand, the main companions.
Okay, so I was curious
Same.
what companions you think we're going to lose there, because I think we're going to lose someone.
I don't know if we're going to lose them, but like
I fear we're losing Jahani.
See, I think that would be a mistake. That would be a good way to, with how critical everybody is. She is literally the first openly gay character in Star Wars. Not that I want to go down that route and get into, the political.
At the time, though, it was a big step.
But like
a huge step. Oh my god!
Would get them. It wouldn't look very good on them to remove her character.
It wouldn't, but she was also the only companion, to my memory at least, that had a lot of her story cut. A lot of Jahani's story was cut before the release, because a lot of the later planets had to do with her, from what I remember.
I honestly
correct me if I'm wrong on that one.
I honestly don't know if we'll lose any of the companions.
I hope we don't,
because they're all significantly important. If Mission fell down a drain, I wouldn't complain.
Mission? I see. My issue's Karth. My issue's Karth. I can't
Oh,
get.
Karth is way too important. He's not going.
Oh no, he's so important. It's just he's so annoying.
The voice actor from Canderous, John, is it Segan? The fella passed away, I believe, a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But the last I heard on that is they might be repurposing his dialogue, which wouldn't be shocking. We see that done all the time in entertainment now. So I think they want him to stay as the face of that character. So.
I mean, the only unfortunate part of that is we wouldn't get any new Canderous content of any kind.
No, you'd have a really hard time repurposing it for new things. So,
well, I think as far as like Juhani goes, I think she's. I don't think she's gonna get cut, but I think she is a character who will get some of this additional content added to her because you're right, she was such a ground-blazing character in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, outside that initial arc of hers on Dantooine,
you don't get much more for her.
Yeah, until Jolie comes in, and I always did like Kashyyyk towards the end.
You see, I never liked Jolie.
Jolie,
he was my companion that I was just like, no, thank you. You're
do you know how many times I've killed Jolie and at the end?
Guy's like Mace Windu light. I never liked him.
He's weird. He's a weird fellow. He fits in with very much almost like a monk force user, just like kind of in between, like really questioning things. But I like the questioning factor, and he does balance well with Juhani. It's just they come in together at a really wrong time. And I'm thinking more about my outburst about Karth. And I remember I've definitely said this on the show before. I often mix up Karth in my memories with Atton Rand from KOTOR 2, which I have a lot of negativity towards, but even more so, Jaden Korr from Jedi Academy. Those three characters have a lot of intermixing in my brain. Karth is the most tolerable out of the three of them. Jaden Korr and Atton Rand are just bad, and they ruin Karth for me for whatever reason. I let that happen in my brain.
Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I have a dog who is I don't know if you guys have been able to hear that, is clawing at the door. So that's my code for get him outside before he does his business inside. So that's going to do it for this episode of Star Wars Wastelands. I know it wasn't segmented. It was just a long discussion, a fun one. And I know Ian and I have talked openly that we're going to do more Thursday, afternoon streams just to really help the Star Wars content tracking the algorithm more. For those of you that are watching live, because it'll be listed as a live premiere, stay tuned for Fandom Empire Live. And for those that aren't, fuck you. No, I'm kidding. Good night.
Good night, everyone.